Funky friends, welcome back to the channel. This is Amy, aka Funky Mama 0703. I'd like to welcome you back. Hope your day has been going well, your weekend was okay. Today's video is going to be another of Prince EA's videos. This one kind of hit me because it's in honor of the school starting back up this within the next couple months, a month or so. This is kind of a opening into that. It is Prince EA's What is School For? Really insightful. A lot of things I didn't realize when I initially saw the video, and it really did hit you in the thoughts. So just kind of a little background. Prince does, as you know, Prince does a lot of kind of rhyme and meter as he's doing his videos. This is a really good one, and it's probably like third or fourth video of his that I actually saw that actually got me into watching him. And we're going to start the video, and I will be agreeing, and I don't know, maybe I'm not going to agree. We'll have to see how it goes. Keep in mind, I had with my son, I had similar problems. I don't think we give enough kids credit, but we'll talk about this once the video is finished.
Your son is a failure. He's barely passing my class, and with grades like this, I'm just not sure what kind of future he's gonna have. What do you have to say for yourself? You're supposed to graduate this year.
Listen to Mr. Johnson. What kind of future do you think you're going to have?
With all due respect, don't call me a failure. Failure is an event, not a person in fact. And you talk about the future, Mr. Johnson, but you're not preparing us for that.
Excuse me?
Just listen to what I'm saying.
This should be good.
Would you agree that in the future, most careers will become automated?
Yeah, so?
So the people who succeed will have to be curious, innovative, with resilience to adapt to new changes.
What's your point?
My point is, the focus in this school is not on that. It is on regurgitating information and test taking, and that's just real. But in today's world, creativity is the most important leadership skill.
Oh, that's how you feel.
You don't have to believe me, but maybe you will believe the 1,500 executives who recently said creativity is the most important leadership skill. See, pretty soon, no one will be hired because of what they know. Because who cares what you know or if you've memorized a fact? We've got Google and Siri for that. In the future, people will be hired because of what they can do with their knowledge. Can they creatively solve real-world problems, not just follow instructions or directions and bubble in multiple choice questions? So, Mom, that's why I'm stressed, because these robotic tasks we learn in school should stop. Because no one can do a robot's job better than a robot. Billionaire founder of Alibaba, Jack Ma, said that we should not compete with artificial intelligence, but instead focus on developing unique human intelligence. Mr. Johnson, drills are for teeth, not the human mind. So these repetitive knowledge-based tasks we must leave behind. Or in the future, you're gonna find a lot of people graduating out of your class right into the unemployment line. See, many top companies today don't look at grades. Mom, that old way is expiring. Google has been quoted as saying GPAs are worthless criteria for hiring. Founder of Tesla, Elon Musk, agrees. So I say this with unease and sorrow. If you continue to teach today as you taught yesterday, then you rob us students of tomorrow. Mr. Johnson, I'm gonna keep it real with you. Sometimes sitting in your class is tough. I'm constantly thinking, if I don't look up at the clock, maybe it'll speed up. So I listen to you do my work and pay attention, feeling like an hour had to have gone by. But it was only 3 minutes. So if you wonder why we're bored in class, look, you want to get a kid to hate reading? Give them this, a school textbook. And some people think it's our fault, and that hurts me. They say you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And to that I say no. Firstly, you can put salt in that horse's hay and make him thirsty. And if you bring joy in your classroom, you can make any bad student nerdy as he or she discovers the beauty of truly learning. Mr. Johnson, I mean no disrespect. You have the most important job on this planet. You build, create, and save lives. But if you really care about my future, like you say, then you have to fully commit and ask yourself honestly, how do I prepare a child for a future that doesn't yet exist? Here's a hint. The answer is not found in this. It's using this and this. See, in the future, we will need more passion and compassion. People with inspired hearts and wisdom to uplift this planet. And Mom, I love you, but can I be real?
Go ahead.
You want to know one of the biggest factors for childhood success? It's not IQ. It's family meals. And we haven't had one of those in a while. See, I know sometimes you don't feel proud, because I may not be a straight A student, but I'm not stupid. These tests may be 70% of my grade, but they're 0% of my future. But don't worry, I'll pass this class and get through this. But I need you to give me the space I need to be me and live true. Because the best feeling in the world is that your own parents get you. There's a passage in a book called The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. And if you don't mind, I'd love to share it with you.
Go ahead.
See, he says, your children are not your children. They are the sons and daughters of life longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, they do not belong to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow. So Mom, I'd appreciate it if you give me the love that I need to pursue my dreams. See, if we are to succeed, all three of us need behavior change on all fronts. We talk about the future, but the future is now, and it is created now by all of us.
I've never heard you speak like that before.
Yeah, I didn't know.
But I'm going to reach out to administration and try to change some things. You have my word.
For me, I was raised a child who was not seen to be working up to their potential. That is the one thing that I'd heard over and over again as a child growing up. Every parent-teacher conference was, she's a great girl. We love having her in class. She's always so talkative, which those of you who know me personally know that that works. But she doesn't live up to her potential. She's not working hard enough. She's not doing well enough. She's not trying to excel, whatever. And for me, it was difficult. I suffered, now would be considered, they would say, dyslexia. Back in my day, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, we never diagnosed it. So I went through my entire life thinking I was stupid and a failure and never going to excel to anything. I did, I was held back in third grade, and that shot another blow to me, which made it even harder for me to feel like a productive member of society. A majority of my life, that's how I felt. So when, with the depression, it made it even worse. I was my own worst enemy, saying nasty things about myself, calling myself a failure, saying I was never going to be anything. I went to school for police science and did my 2-year program. Never did anything with that degree. I've got an associate's degree in police science. Haven't done anything with it, simply because of that. Well, there was anxiety involved, but I think with the depression, it was just knowing that I was never going to succeed. I was one of those students that did the best I could, But in those days, they didn't give us the potential, or they didn't give us the assistance we needed. So I constantly was failing. This video did a lot to draw back a lot of my feelings, although a lot of what he's talking about we didn't have back then. And it was a lot of hard work for me to beat that. I look at my son now and I feel extremely proud, although there have been times earlier on, all his grade school and most of his middle school year, I felt like I had failed him, and I would never call him a failure. That's the one thing I think is the most heart-wrenching about this video, is the fact that these people were calling him a failure. And I don't think any child is ever a failure, because their life continues. And yes, they're making it more difficult on themselves, but they are not failures. So I look at my son, and I would never, ever even imagine calling him a failure. He's now very successful in his school career, but he just needed the right fit, and he needed the people there who were willing to help him. And back in my day, we didn't have those people. We didn't have these diagnoses and these ideas that this is what it was. It was always, you were not living up to what you can do, and you need to work harder, and you need to apply yourself. That was the one thing my record, or I'm trying to remember what this record book grades used to say, was, you have to, or she needs to apply herself. Great girl needs to apply herself. I tried that with my son. Initially, it was like, you need to work harder, you need to try. And then all of a sudden I realized he's doing the best he can. He was born with a hematoma on the brain, which left scar tissue in an area that was one of your memory centers, short-term memory. And he could never commit anything into his short-term memory, so therefore it never could be committed to the long-term memory. To this day, he still has issues with it, but the school, from 8th grade on to high school, has done so much to try to make it better for him and try to help him. And they've been on board. They've been doing what they needed to do to bring him to a point where he now has success. And he, the first 7 years of his life, of his school career, he felt like he was failing. And I know he felt there was a certain amount of, that he was letting me down. And it wasn't that. I always said, as long as you're doing the best you can, that's all we ask. And I would never ask more of him than that, than just doing what you can, doing your best. I don't want you messing around and not doing it. But he would always do his best. And unfortunately, he had so many features or factors that just made it so hard for him to do it. So to see him now from 8th grade, where he got the assistance he needed through the school, and they excelled in giving him what he needed, and then his first 2 years in high school, and listening to the reviews and to the IEPs and to the visits from the teachers and getting emails from them. It's just amazing now to hear such positivity and so much goodness coming from him. It just makes my heart just swell because of that. The fact that I know he had so many problems early on, and he struggled, and wishing that there was somebody else that could just step in and help. And finally he has them. I'm very, very proud of that. And I don't like the idea, like in this video, beating the kids with, you're a failure, you're never going to succeed. Everybody has their own path. We may not always agree with the path. We may always wonder, why are we not thinking the same way? But everybody has their own path, and you have to let them take their paths. I know that my path was rather circumferency, or it was round. I kept coming back to the beginning and just never really failed to excel. I think I'm doing pretty good now. I'm happy where I am, but I also understand that, it's something that we have to be able to come to peace with. And hearing the teacher and the mother kind of go after him and say he's not succeeding, he's a failure, which in their eyes, in our old view, yes, it is a failure. There are things we need to do to help our children. And I think as a parent, it's your job to advocate for your child when they can't advocate for themselves. Now, my son has learned to advocate, and I'm very happy about that because he was not a fighter. And I did have to kind of go what we used to call Tiger Mom to keep everything forefront for him and my daughter. So it was a struggle for me to always make sure that my kids got what they needed. And then once we got into um, high school with my son, it just worked fantastically. My daughter's path is differently, and that is different, and that's her path, and she will find her way. But to see my son excel at what he's doing, and to see him being strong and powerful in what he's doing makes me extremely proud. And this video just, I mean, there were several points where I got hit for myself simply because I remember being that kid and not being um, told that I was going to be anything and that I was going to fail. And I did. Um, I always say, if you look for something, you will find it. And if you're constantly told over and over again that you're going to be a failure, you're going to be a failure. You're going to find it. Um, you got to find the way to be positive and to make it. And it's not always going to be that easy, and it is going to be a struggle. Um, but as long as you keep fighting, nothing's done. Failure is what happens at the end of something when you don't do anything. As long as there's still life, as long as you're still living, you're not a failure. You just have to focus, is what basically it is. And, a lot of what they're teaching them in school. Now, the fact is, a lot of the stuff that the kids are learning nowadays are things that I'm talking about like when my son was like in fourth and fifth grade, they were learning things that I learned in college. Why? There's a lot of things that these kids aren't going to use later on in their lives. A lot of things that, like Prince EA was talking about, you got the phone, you can get the information, you can Google that information, you can use a calculator. You learn the process, but yeah, then that's all you have to really do. You now have to adapt to what's going on around us. We as adults, I have that same issue at my job right now where they are revamping and changing things. Well, that's all well and good, but we have to learn to adapt. And that's what humans are supposed to be able to do, is adapt to. And you can't sit back and not work on adapting. We're all struggling with it, but we all have to adapt, or we lose the job. We lose things going on. We become failures. The thing is to try to find a way to adapt to it so that you're not. And we're not teaching our kids the adapting tools because we're just focusing on what they're not doing. And you're already setting them up to fail because you're calling them that, or you're not giving them what they need to be above it. So we as parents need to step back and realize that our kids are individuals and they will make their own decisions up, which is very hard sometimes as a parent. And we may not agree with them, but we have to offer them the ability to learn from what's going on in their lives, be it what's going on in school and having issues there. For anything, we have to give them that ability to learn themselves. And it's rough. It is rough. And school is coming up, and I want to see a lot more parents and a lot more teachers. And I'm by no means am I berating teachers. You guys are hardworking individuals. You have done so much, and you guys have so much more available to you than your counterparts 30 years ago. And I'm so blessed by that idea because that means my son has a better chance at succeeding. Parents always want their kids to do better than how they did. Well, at least that was the way it was when I was growing up. Our parents always wanted us to do better than what how we succeeded or how they did. So their idea is that we do better. And I think that's something we need to keep in mind, is as long as our kids are happy and doing the best they can, we got to be okay with it. They have everything at their disposal on that phone they have, on that computer they've got. They have everything at their disposal. They can find what they need to find that they're learning in school. It's teaching them the things that they need to know. One of Prince EA's later videos, he mentions, I think it's something like "I sued the school" is going to be what it is, and it'll be one in the next week or so. And that was that he talks about how school hasn't changed in like 150 years, and that's true. The kids are all in lines now. They're starting to get a little different with trying to reconfigure into groups and that type thing. But for the long run, and you're talking like high school especially, they're all in lines. And if you look at pictures of a school 150 years ago, it's very much the same. Teaching them things that they really don't need to know. Your basics, figures, basic sentences, basic, cursive writing, I still think is an extremely important thing to learn, because the kids are never, ever going to be able to read those important notes from the past, the Declaration of Independence, family history. That's all handwritten. I'm just a lowly mother looking at my kid and hoping he excels and hoping they do well. But, it hasn't changed much. There are things that they're learning that they don't really need in the long run. And particularly are those things like calculus, unless they're going to be going on to college, and certain aspects of college, or if they're interested in that. That, to me, needs to be more of a elective, taking further math courses and further getting into that, as opposed to forcing it upon kids that maybe don't have the ability or the desire to go to college, going on to a higher education, beyond vocational school. Vocational schools, you don't need a lot of that stuff, and they'll teach you what you do need. So to me, it's foolish to teach them all this stuff. We need to teach them how to cope, how to live out there. And in high school, that's the great place to teach them how to do, checkbooking and working on credit and doing all the things that we do in our lives on a regular basis that we were never taught, but we learned through watching our parents. So I think a lot of that stuff needs to be cooking. It's an elective course, but it shouldn't be. It should be something that they have to do. The whole idea of supporting the arts in school, where sports are being taken away, art classes are being taken away, music classes are being taken away because they can't afford it. Well, you're doing all this other stuff that they really don't need. And it's important. I mean, I used to think sports not necessary, art not necessary, but then I started realizing, and growing up myself, where that stuff really is necessary if a child wants to build up self-esteem or express their creativity, express a part of themselves that doesn't get expressed through school on a regular basis. I mean, it's 8 hours or so of them sitting there listening to people talk, taking notes, maybe, and taking tests that are just regurgitated on that stuff. So where is their creativity? I remember my final years in high school where we were able to, as long as we had study hall classes, and of course senior year you got a couple study hall classes, you were able to go into like the art room, and I absolutely loved going into the art room and hanging out there and getting ahead on art projects, or I was able to express my creativity. And nowadays they don't have the classes like we had to, or they are they were elective back then, but there were a certain amount, they had it available to you, and it's just not there as readily as it had been. And you're cutting down teachers, so of course the classes have to be cut. It's a rough field out there, and there's so many things, but I think we need, as a country, to focus more on the education system and make it more friendly to our children, because our children are the ones that are going to be hurt. Anyways, I have expounded on this way too much. I've got 2 more school-related Prince EA videos that I'd like to do and kind of show you guys. it's really interesting. It really is. And he has, like I said, a very easy way of talking that you get sucked in. And I think you're going to see that with the rest of that. But this one here, like I said, really hit me because of the fact that I grew up like that and hearing that, not from my parents because they were very supportive, but hearing that from teachers and such because they were constantly saying she's not applying herself. And it was my dyslexia that caused me issues with the applying. And I did the best I could. And I never got credit for doing the best I could. But I'm going to close this up tonight. Just want to let you know, keep in mind, I want to hear comments on the bottom if you have anything. I'd like to hear your experience. If you don't want to put it in there, just let me know. I can send you a copy of my email address. You can send me a direct email. Facebook, you can send me something direct as well if you need to. I'll give you that. I don't really know. I know most of the people that are on here right now are friends, but anytime further down the road, I don't want to be giving out this information. So I'll give it out once you ask, or once I ask, and once you ask, and you want to give out some, or I feel like I can trust you. Not a problem. Don't worry. But I think the big thing is that we need to. There's the big thing again. I think what it is we need to listen to the kids more and find out what they need. And I understand parents are saying, well, they're kids, they have no rights. But as parents, it's our job to listen to them and find out if we can make what they want work. Maybe I'm an over protective mom. Maybe I've always been a little bit overly taking care of them, but it's what we do. It's supposed to be. We're parents. We're supposed to prepare our kids and teach our kids and show our kids. And that's what I always try to do. Anyways, comments in the bar below. I would like to see subscriptions coming up. I'd also like to see friends, if you have any friends that might find any of this informative. Also, the bell at the end of once you subscribe, the bell, hit that. That's going to get you the ability to get new videos when they come up. Have a good night, guys. Thank you for listening and bearing with me in my rambling. Thank you, and enjoy your evening. Bye, guys.